Imagine waking up in this towering four-story skyscraper, but imagine that skyscraper is 1,000 years old.
Right.
And it's constructed entirely out of mud and stone. And it's sitting at an altitude so extreme that dogs and roosters literally cannot survive in the thin air.
It sounds like another planet, honestly.
It really does. Or, a set for a fantasy movie or something. But you aren't on a movie set. You are in the village of Phu.
Yeah, cool.
And waking up in a place this impossibly remote, it really feels like stepping through a portal into another time. Like the light hits the sun-baked stone differently up there. And you realize you've just dropped into this epic, ongoing narrative that was unfolding centuries before you arrived. And it's going to keep unfolding long after you leave.
Oh, absolutely. And we are stepping into a really immersive story today.
Yeah.
One that revolves around, well, incredible endurance, isolation, and deliberate adaptation.
Yes.
We are following David. He's a Nepal guidebook author, and we're following him and his trekking guide, Gautam, as they navigate this harsh beauty of the Himalayas.
And we should clarify, this isn't just a quick clinical scouting trip for a book, right?
No, not at all. For David, this is a deeply personal return to the Nar Phu trek. It's a journey back to a place of this rugged, almost lost beauty.
Which is just so compelling.
It is.
The weather this morning is bright, the air is crisp, and there is this undeniable raw magic in the atmosphere. Today is day 4 of this epic return.
And our exploration today really focuses on the necessary friction between physical endurance and spiritual grounding. Because you cannot just power your way through these mountains using brute force.
It would break.
You would. The village of Phu forces you to adapt the very second you open your eyes. I mean, the literal translation of Phu is head of the valley, which makes sense, marking it as this northernmost settlement sitting right up near the Tibetan border.
But the locals have a different name for it, right?
Yeah, they do. The local inhabitants, who are ethnically Tibetan, they descend from settlers who crossed the high passes generations ago. They have this much more evocative name for it. They call it the village of the blowing wind.
Which is just so poetic, and David wakes up to that exact sound. It's described as this low, persistent note of wind coming off the high passes, funneling right through these ancient stone lanes.
Just howling through.
Exactly. And you have to remember, you are at 4,070 meters up, so the air is undeniably thin, but it carries this incredibly distinct scent. It's this mix of juniper smoke and that ancient sun-baked stone.
And visually, it just completely upends how we typically picture a mountain village.
Oh, totally.
Like, we often imagine these sprawling cabins or wide settlements spreading out across a green valley. But Phu is this compact, dense mud and brick fortress. And it's built directly into a 100-foot rock outcrop.
It essentially functions like a medieval citadel.
Exactly. The residents built upward. They constructed these 4-story structures. And they did that to solve a massive logistical problem dictated by the geography.
The extreme lack of wood.
Right, because they are way above the tree line.
So every single piece of substantial timber, I'm talking door frames, the ladders, the heavy roof beams, all of it had to be physically carried up from the forests downriver.
Which is just wild to think about.
It requires a brutal 2-day journey carrying a massive logs on their backs, just hiking straight up a mountain.
I mean, when you understand that level of resource scarcity, the architecture makes perfect sense.
Right, you wouldn't waste a single inch.
Exactly. You conserve every scrap of building material by stacking the homes vertically. So you have different families inhabiting different levels of the same structure.
It's like an ancient skyscraper born entirely out of necessity.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And outside each house today, you can still see these steep, carefully managed piles of firewood. It serves as this visual ledger of their survival, really. A constant reminder of how hard-won every basic comfort is at this altitude.
And the isolation of this citadel, it creates an atmosphere that is almost startling for a modern visitor. David mentions this observation from Don Messerschmidt, a researcher who visited the area back in 2002.
Right, the sound issue.
Yeah. Messerschmidt noticed something profound was missing from the village, something you would hear in almost any other human settlement on Earth.
There were no dogs barking.
No dogs, and there were no roosters crowing either.
And when Messerschmidt asked the villagers about this absence, the answer was just purely practical.
Like everything else up there.
Exactly. At over 4,000 meters, those animals simply do not survive the conditions. Or, the ancestors found no practical use for them to justify the precious resources they would consume.
So the result is this profound, absolute silence. It is a genuine quiet that just envelops this 1,000-year-old citadel. It's completely detached from the mechanical noise of the modern world.
It's incredible. So you are standing in this silent, peaceful fortress. Your bones ache from yesterday's grueling hike from Meta.
Oh, my immediate instinct in that scenario is to sit by a fire, drink some butter tea, and absolutely refuse to move a single muscle.
Which is a very normal reaction.
Ugh.
But apparently that instinct is exactly what outdated guidebooks tell you to do. They label day 4 a rest day.
Which is a huge trap, right?
That's a dangerous misnomer. And it understandably frustrates David.
Right.
He argues that the term rest day should just be retired from trekking itineraries entirely.
Yeah.
Because it sets a terrible expectation for new trekkers.
Like you think you're just going to chill in your sleeping bag.
Right. But if you treat today as a true rest day and remain sedentary, you are actively setting yourself up for acute mountain sickness.
Which is no joke.
It can be fatal, unless a trekker is genuinely ill and unable to move. Today is strictly an acclimatization day.
Okay, let's break down the mechanics of that because it sounds completely counterintuitive to me. Like my legs are burning, I'm at 4,070 meters, I'm gasping for air, and the medical prescription for my survival is to go climb even higher.
I know, it sounds crazy, but the environment requires a biological upgrade, and sitting still simply won't trigger it.
Okay.
Later in the week, David and Gautam are going to have to cross the Kangal Pass, and that sits at a towering 5,320 meters.
Wow.
Yeah. So to survive that safely, the body needs to be forced into an adaptive state right now. When you climb higher, the barometric pressure drops. That means there are literally fewer oxygen molecules available in every single breath you take. Your kidneys sense this lack of oxygen, and they respond by releasing a hormone called EPO. And that hormone signals your bone marrow to start pumping out fresh red blood cells. You need those extra cells to carry whatever scarce oxygen is available in your blood.
So you are essentially giving your biological systems a controlled panic attack to force them into mass production.
That is a perfect way to describe it. It is deliberate, controlled stress. The golden rule of high-altitude mountaineering is climb high, sleep low.
Climb high, sleep low.
Exactly. By pushing your body to a higher elevation during the day, you trigger that essential red blood cell production. Then, by returning to the lower altitude of the village to actually sleep, you allow your body to recover.
It gives it time to process the upgrade.
Right, without putting dangerous, prolonged stress on your organs overnight.
See, that reframes the entire morning for me. It's not about punishing yourself just to be tough. It's about tactical physiological preparation.
Yeah, it's survival prep.
Which totally explains the pre-dawn activity. David and Gautam are up early, they're eating this Tibetan bread and honey they prepared the night before, and they're plotting out their options, because staying put isn't on the table.
They have to choose a sidetrack for their acclimatization mission today.
And David is in a really unique position here, isn't he, as a guidebook author who has hiked the Nar Phu trek multiple times.
Oh, yeah. He isn't just following a map blindly. He is evaluating what each trail offers so he can properly advise his readers. He breaks down the options so trekkers can make choices based on their own fitness, their schedule, and their expectations from the trek.
Well, let's explore his primary recommendation first. This is for anyone who only has a single day in Phu. He points trekkers toward what he calls the secret high pass training session.
Ah, yes. The Guru Sangbo viewpoint.
Right. Guru Sangbo.
For pure, efficient acclimatization, Guru Sangbo is the optimal choice. It involves this steep 700-meter climb straight up from the village, and it eventually tops out at a plateau sitting at 4,730 meters.
A 700-meter vertical climb on tired legs. I mean, that requires some serious mental discipline.
Definitely. David emphasizes that you really have to approach this not as a race, but as deliberate training.
Pacing is everything.
Right. It takes roughly 2 to 3 hours to trek up and then about an hour and a half to descend. And the environment you are walking through is surprisingly vibrant, even if it is dry and dusty.
Yeah, he mentions sharing the steep path with grazing yaks and the local blue sheep, right? The burrell.
The burrell, yes. They're fascinating creatures. They look more blue-gray, but they have these stark white coats that just pop against the golden rock of the mountain.
And their reaction to human trekkers struggling up the incline is just hilarious to me. It really highlights the stark reality of the environment.
How so?
Well, David mentions they watch you with this calm, absolute indifference. Like they're just standing sideways on vertical cliff faces, munching on scrub, watching humans gasp for air and stumble over rocks.
Oh, yeah, they are totally unfazed.
It reminds me of the indifference, like Seasoned locals have watching a tourist struggle at the gym, or the indifference a fish has for a diver in a heavy, clunky scuba suit.
That's a great analogy.
To us, this altitude is a hostile environment. We need specialized preparation, red blood cell upgrades, and fancy gear just to survive it. To the blue sheep, it's just the water they swim in. We are the clumsy visitors in their element.
We really are. That contrast between the native inhabitants and the visitors is constantly present on this trek. But the physical exertion pays off spectacularly.
It sounds like it.
About halfway up the climb, the terrain levels out into a flat plateau. It provides a perfect spot to sit down, eat your packed Tibetan bread, and just take in the sheer scale of the Himalayas.
And the visual payoff at the actual viewpoint at 4,730 meters, it sounds like something out of a fantasy epic.
It's breathtaking.
David describes looking out over the arid golden line of the Tibetan Plateau, and it's framed by these massive, glaciated white peaks on the horizon. He notes that if you've never seen the Tibetan Plateau from the Nepali side, it genuinely feels like standing on the border of one world looking into another.
The brilliance of the Guru Sangpo trek is that it accomplishes two crucial goals simultaneously. Psychologically, that sweeping view provides an awe-inspiring boost of morale which you desperately need.
Right.
And physiologically, standing at that altitude is quietly forcing your kidneys into that EPO production we discussed earlier. It perfectly aligns the body and mind for the massive pass they're going to face later on.
It's a win-win. But David knows different trekkers have different goals. Suppose a trekker wants a completely different kind of challenge, or maybe they just have the luxury of adjusting their itinerary. The alternative side trek is Himlung Base Camp,
Yes.
and that sits at an imposing 4,900 meters.
Himlung Base Camp is no joke. It's the staging ground for expeditions that are actually tackling the 7,126-meter Himlung Peak.
Which is massive.
So the trek there is a completely different tactical experience. It takes roughly 4 hours out and 3 hours back.
And the terrain itself sounds incredibly harsh compared to Guru Sangpo. You are dealing with the Pangri Glacier. You're navigating loose rock, exposed glacial ice, and scrubby tundra.
It's rough going.
It's a much less defined trail underfoot. If there happen to be expedition tents set up at the base camp, you at least have a visual target to aim for. Otherwise, you were just wandering out into this endless landscape of rock and ice.
And this is exactly where David's insight as a veteran guidebook author becomes invaluable. He doesn't just list the route and say, go do it. He evaluates the cost-benefit analysis of attempting it.
Right, because there's a serious cost.
Exactly. The mountain walls enclosing Himlung are undeniably massive and beautiful, but he specifically classifies this trek as a glacial grind.
A glacial grind. See, looking at a map of that terrain, my ego might say, yeah, push through the ice just to prove your endurance.
Ego's your worst enemy at altitude.
Right. I'm guessing that kind of ego-driven hiking is exactly what ruins a broader 9-day itinerary.
100%. When you let ego dictate your pacing at altitude, the environment usually wins. David points out that draining your energy reserves on unstable, icy terrain is a massive tactical error when you still have a 5,320-meter pass waiting for you later in the week.
You're just setting yourself up to fail.
You really are. His professional recommendation is to only attempt Himlung Base Camp if you have a second acclimatization day built into your schedule.
Framing it as tactical resource allocation makes so much sense. And extending that schedule is surprisingly accessible, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
David notes it only costs about $10 to extend your trekking permit for an extra day.
Just $10.
I mean, spending $10 for a second night of sleeping low at 4,000 meters, allowing your body an extra 24 hours of red blood cell production, that seems like the smartest investment you could possibly make for the rest of the journey.
It absolutely is the smartest move. But for a single-day stopover, Guru Sangpo is still the clear winner.
Right, for the one day, folks.
Exactly. It offers the elevation gain, the sweeping views, and efficient acclimatization, while importantly leaving you with enough physical energy and daylight to actually experience the village itself in the afternoon.
Which perfectly sets up the second half of our exploration today, because when your body is redlining from pushing up a 700-meter incline in thin air, your nervous system is just in overdrive.
It's completely wired.
You can't just flip a switch and instantly relax. You need an active psychological anchor to bring your mind back to baseline. And for David and Gautam, that anchor requires a physical descent back into Phu, having a quick lunch, and then taking a walk across the valley to the Tashi Lhakhang Gompa.
Now, a Gompa functions as both a monastery and a center of learning in Tibetan Buddhism. Tashi Lhakhang is this 700-year-old structure sitting on a prominent bluff facing the main village.
Wow, 700 years old.
And it's actually built over the foundations of an even older monastery. So it is a place of profound historical and spiritual weight.
It is also the home of Lama Karma Sonam Rinpoche.
Yes, a very important figure.
And Rinpoche is a title meaning precious one, given to highly respected spiritual masters. His personal history is just incredible. He fled Tibet in 1959 during the uprising, seeking refuge across the border in these high valleys.
Right.
But he isn't just a spiritual figurehead sitting in isolation, meditating all day.
Not at all. He has actively shaped the ecology of the entire region. Over the decades, he became a keystone figure in Himalayan conservation throughout the Manang district.
That's amazing.
His efforts are specifically focused on protecting snow leopards and the blue sheep we discussed earlier. It is this beautiful intersection of Buddhist philosophy and modern ecological preservation.
I love that.
The core Buddhist tenet of ahimsa, or nonviolence and respect for all living things, it aligns perfectly with protecting apex predators and maintaining the natural balance of the mountain ecosystem.
Knowing that context makes the visit to the Gompas so much richer. And on the way up there, David and Gautam have this mild debate about what people actually expect from these places.
Expectations versus reality.
Exactly. David points out that Westerners, or really anyone with a highly romanticized view of Buddhism, they often project these grand fantasies onto these remote locations.
Oh, absolutely.
They picture arriving at a mountain monastery and being greeted by warm, open-armed enlightenment, surrounded by large communities of monks chanting in brightly painted halls.
Right, because those expectations are usually built on images of the large, vibrant monasteries found down in the Kathmandu Valley, or tourist hubs like Tamil and Pokhara.
Where everything is very polished.
Exactly. But the reality in the deep mountains is entirely different.
David immediately grounds those expectations when they enter Tashi Lhakhang. The energy isn't warm and performative, it is raw and solitary.
Very raw.
The interior is dim, illuminated only by this faint light and the heavy smell of old butter lamps and burning incense. And there's just a single, quiet nun acting as the caretaker for the space.
David uses the term austere spirituality, which I think perfectly captures the reality of the Gompa. The devotion here isn't about grand displays. It is fundamentally tied to survival.
It has to be.
The spiritual practice is as rugged, unyielding, and necessary as the stone fortress of the village across the valley.
And standing on the steps of that Gompa, absorbing that austere quiet, David looks back toward the village. And along the facing ridge, there is this striking line of 13 white chortens.
Ah, the chortens.
Yeah. A chorten is a Buddhist monument or shrine that represents the awakened mind of the Buddha. And seeing 13 of them stark white against the golden rock, it must be breathtaking.
It really must be. And those specific chortens anchor the village in written history, actually.
Really?
Yeah, they're the exact monuments noted by the British explorer H.W. Tillman when he became the first Westerner to visit the area in 1950.
Wow, 1950.
In his 1952 book, Nepal, Himalaya, Tillman described the yellow cliffs, the white granite boulders, and those 13 shrines. He famously dubbed Phu the Strange Village.
The Strange Village. And 75 years later, standing in the exact same spot, David reflects on how the passage of time changes a place. He notes that the village isn't really strange anymore. I mean, it has been mapped, guidebooks have been written, and the occasional modern solar panel now catches the sun up there.
The modern world creeping in.
Exactly. The heavy shroud of mystery that Tillman felt has lifted. Yet the physical view from those Gompa steps remains completely untouched by the centuries.
If we synthesize the entirety of Day 4, it really is a masterclass in adaptation. You have the deliberate physiological stress of pushing the blood on the Guru Sangbo Trail, then the architectural awe of navigating a 4,000-year-old citadel born of sheer scarcity, and finally, the profound, anchoring quiet of the Gompa.
It's a full-body experience.
It is. The day forces a complete alignment of the physical body, the mind, and the deep history of the landscape.
It really leaves you with a deeply provocative thought about the nature of preservation, too. I mean, Tillman found this place isolated by its extreme geography back in 1950. Today, David finds the architecture and the silence largely intact.
Unchanged.
Right. And in our hyper-connected, relentlessly loud modern world, it makes you wonder, does the true preservation of a culture and its profound quiet actually require this extreme level of geographic hostility?
That's a fascinating question.
Can true peace, the kind where dogs don't bark and engines don't run, can it only exist in places where mere survival is a daily struggle?
It strongly suggests that the harshness of the thin air and the freezing wind act as a necessary protective shell. Like the mountain's hostility is the very thing that guards its silence.
It is a thought that really lingers as the sun sets over the citadel. You just can't help but wonder what tomorrow will bring as David and Gautam finally pack their gear, leave the village of the blowing wind behind, and trek onward toward Nar Phu to sleep in yet another remote mountain monastery.
The physical and mental preparation of today is absolutely about to be tested on the trails tomorrow. And for anyone inspired to understand the mechanics of this journey or, who wants to navigate these high passes themselves, this entire route is meticulously detailed in David's guidebook.
Yes, highly recommend checking it out.
It's called Trekking in Nepal, and it is available directly on his website at thelongestwayhome.com.
Whether you are drawn to the biological challenge of the altitude, the ancient architecture, or just the idea of finding a silence that profound, this story offers something incredible. Thank you for joining us on this immersive exploration today. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you on the trail next time.